Hey there guys, Russ Hamilton here. So, I have an upcoming video series that I've just completed the first one on, and it's all about complacency and corrections. It's an attempt to give everyone out there the tools, the strategies, the tactics they need to combat complacency, because complacency is perhaps the worst enemy that we have out there. It touches corrections and other law enforcement in all kinds of bad ways. So I hope that you'll check it out. All right, this is Russ Hamilton. Stay safe, stay frosty. I'm signing out. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to my video series on complacency and corrections. My name is Russ Hamilton, and just to give you a little bit of my background before we get started, I've been in the corrections game for around 30 years, and it all started back in 1989 when I got a job with the California Department of Corrections at San Quentin State Prison. So after working for quite a few years at San Quentin, I eventually transferred to another prison where I promoted to sergeant. And then after getting enough of that for a while, after about 27 years worth, I ended up retiring. And then almost immediately upon my retirement, I went back to work in a correctional setting, but this correctional setting was with juveniles in a detention facility, which really, believe it or not, even though all of that experience at San Quentin and at the other prison and all of my time spent being a sergeant, it was actually quite the learning experience. I learned a lot of new things. But then finally, it was time for me to retire again. So after I retired again, there was really no sense in wasting all of this experience. So I started a Facebook page called Keepers of Chaos. And basically what we do there is it's knowledge and information and training and history for correctional staff, not just custody, not just those with sworn experience as peace officers, but everyone that has a job in corrections. There's something for them to learn. There's a way to make them all safer. So then after starting that, I also started partnering and contributing with a guy named Anthony Ganji. And Anthony Ganji is over there on YouTube, and he has a concern over there called Tear Talk. And so Tear Talk is what I run most of my videos through. It's the way that I accomplish most of my training. And it's been really a great asset for me. And I think I've been a great asset for Anthony. And we've been doing things that just, really aren't being done anywhere else in the correctional realm right now. So we've made it pretty much our mission to bring corrections into the 21st century and to try and promote and advocate for correctional personnel in order to, bring them the recognition that they deserve and to showcase to the public the skills and assets that they have, and to show the meaningfulness of what those jobs are that keep the public safe, that provide rehabilitation to inmates. And it's just something that, I'm honored to, be connected with at this point, because I can still consider myself in the business doing this. So when I decided that I was going to do my very first video series, which is this one right here, right, I had to have what I knew would be a great subject, a great topic to talk about. That's why I chose complacency. All right. Complacency touches and is involved in almost every bad thing that happens in corrections and law enforcement. And that's why I wanted to have something that was going to impact people out there and give them that wake-up call and the tools and strategies and tactics to be able to possibly save a life, save a career, save someone from serious harm, ensure the safety and protection of the public, because that's what we do. So anyway, before we can do all of those things and gain all of those things, we have to have a good working definition of complacency. But before I give you what my working definition is and something that I came up with in order to be able to teach this kind of course more effectively, I'm going to clue you in on some attributes that'll help you really understand and realize what complacency is all about. So, love the English language, all right? The English language has a bunch of wonderful words in it with all kinds of different flavors, so that when I'm doing something like this and I'm assigning attributes to something like complacency, it'll really make you more aware of what it is. So the first two words that I've got for you with regards to complacency is insidious and pernicious. Now, those two words, they mean basically the same thing, and it just means a harmful effect without realizing it, because it's gradual or subtle sometimes. All right? That is the big two attributes of complacency. Complacency is a blindness, but it's not a blindness about your conscious that you can't see. It's a blindness where you're unconscious of what vision even is. That's why it's insidious. That's why it's pernicious. All right. So you have to keep that in mind. You don't know what you don't know. And complacency is just basically not even caring that you don't know. But we're going to get to my working definition, which I think is really going to help you out when we get to the end of this. All right. So how does complacency even exist? All right. So I'm going to give you these 4 things that are going to outline for you how complacency can exist in a correctional setting. All right. So first of all, what we've got is we have denial. All right. So denial is pretty easy. Denial is just not wanting to have to think about all the bad things that happen. And so you're in there, and believe it or not, there are people inside corrections, inside the prisons and jails, that they're invested in this particular tactic, deniability, where it's just, I really don't know what's going on. I don't care to know what's going on. I don't care to think about how much danger I'm in. All right. This is that head in the sand ostrich thing, deniability. All right. The second thing is lack of knowledge, right? Before we can effectively combat something like complacency, we have to have a knowledge. We have to have a knowledge about the particular environment that we're in so that we're able to deal with it. It's a long learning experience being in corrections, but you need to have, knowledge of gangs, how they operate, how inmates manipulate people, how they go about introducing contraband and smuggling things, and what those things are for. Having that knowledge allows you to recognize the situation that you're in. Because let me tell you, it's the situations, whatever those are, whether it's manipulation, whether it's, contraband smuggling, whether it's attacking people, whether it's some sort of gang activity, those are all situations. You have to start recognizing those situations and how they integrate with your whole view of what's going on in the prison setting. The next one, number 3, is lack of preparedness. All right. So lack of preparedness just means that you don't care when a situation arises to have to be ready for it. And that's a really bad thing in corrections, obvious to say. I mean, do you have all the right equipment on you? Do you know what you're supposed to do? Do you know what your post orders say? Do you know what you're supposed to do with regards to policy and procedure? If you don't, you should. So that's just another thing that feeds that complacency, and complacency just feeds into danger. All right. And then number 4 is desensitization to the environment. You walk into that prison or jail every single day, and you know what? Some things happen. On some days, some things don't happen. And you just put yourself in a position where the danger that you used to feel when you walk in is no longer there. You don't recognize it for what it is. You've started to go blind. Perhaps you're all the way blind and you don't even see it in yourself yet. And that's why, once again, complacency is insidious and pernicious. All right. I urge you to look those 2 words up. All right. Maybe we'll do that right here, right now. Here's a quick little definition of what they are. All right. So my definition, it's coming up. And before I give you that definition, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what's going to be in the next set of videos. All right. We're going to talk about the types of complacency, and we're going to talk about 2 different kinds of complacency, and what I call personal complacency, which is what we usually deal with. But there's also another form of it that I call institutional complacency, where the institution has decided that it wants to be blind to the things that are happening and has chosen, for one reason or another, not to take action and to not be prepared for it. And we're going to go into that as well. All right. So now we're going to come to my definition, and I coined this term, but rather definition several years back to give everyone an idea of what complacency is. And this, more than the dictionary definition, really kind of categorizes what happens in corrections and law enforcement. All right. So complacency is situational awareness perceived, but not achieved. So when I break that down, it's basically your situational awareness, and you always have some, but not to the degree where you understand whether or not you're being blinded or whether you're being blind to something. You think that you know what's going on. You think you understand the situation, but you don't. Have you done your due diligence? Do you know who the operators are out there in your STGs and gangs on the yard? Do you know what things that they're smuggling in? Do you know how to be an impact player so that each and every day you leave that place a little safer than you found it? That's what we're going to go into in the rest of this series. So anyway, hope you'll take a minute. Also check out Anthony Ganji's series on manipulation. And everyone, stay safe, stay frosty, stay aware. This is Russ Hamilton. I'm signing off.